Hello everyone and welcome to this Creative Lab session. Today I'll show you how you can run your own AI. How we are going to be doing this is by using Ollama. Ollama is a tool which allows you to install, run and customize your own AIs on your device itself, so you don't have to let it run by other companies. And the benefits of running your own AI on your own device is obviously the security, but also the fact that it's free. The reason you have to pay for certain AI features is mostly because you're using the computing power of those services themselves and of those businesses. So you're basically just running the AI on their computers and doing all the computing for you. But if you run it on your own device, it's basically free. So let's take a look at Ollama. Here we have Ollama, which is our main hub of where we're going to be starting our AI journey. Here we can download the Ollama client, which is just something you have to download. You can choose your own operating system. So for this case, we are going to be using Windows, but you also have the Linux control line and also the Mac OS version. But today we're just going to be using Windows. Then just wait until the setup is installed. Then just run the setup and it will install out of its own. So we're going to install it here. So once everything's installed, you should get a notification that Ollama is running. Obviously, we have different ways to test if it's actually running. First of all, you can go to the bottom right and check if there's a little icon called Ollama. If this shows up, you know it's running. Another way of checking this is by using the command prompt. So we're going to be opening the command prompt, which just press your window key and type cmd, and it should show up. Alright, here we have our commands, and if we just type Ollama with two L's, we should have a list of commands. If this doesn't show up, again, it's probably not running. Just reinstall it or rerun it to start it back up. So now that everything is installed correctly, we are going to be going back to the Ollama site and go to models at the top. There are a lot of models and every model has its own aspects and benefits. What we are going to be mainly focusing on is the parameters that it has. Basically, the parameters is how many switches inside of its AI it can turn on and off to give you the correct response. So if we are looking at all these different models, we can see all these different letters or numbers with a B behind it. This means billion parameters. What this corresponds to is every billion parameters is 1 gigabyte of RAM that you should have, and there's also a size correlating to them. If you want to, for example, run a 12 billion parameter model, you have to have at least 14 or 16 gigabytes of RAM to get a good performance out of it. In today's test, we will just be using a 1 billion parameter model, just so it's a bit easier. Obviously, I'm running it on a laptop, so it's not going to be the strongest. But you can run any of these models depending on your own PC performance. So we are going to be looking at DeepSeek R1. Once we've clicked on DeepSeek, we can scroll down and we have the running command, which is basically just Ollama run with the model behind it. So we are going to be going back to our command prompt and we are going to be pasting in the command. You can also just type it in, just like so. If you just type Ollama run, make sure it's spelled correctly, and then obviously the model identifier. In this case, this is DeepSeek R1, and we are going to be filling in the parameters as well, which is 1.5 billion. This is just to clarify it's the smaller model. And then we just click enter, and because this is the first time installing this one, it will pull the manifest, it will pull all the additional data that it needs. It basically pulls the entire model from the internet, which is very nice. You don't have to know any coding. This is just all automated. You can see it here for yourself. It's downloading it on its own, and you just have to sit and watch. Alrighty, and then we have a success. So, as you guys can see now, we have installed everything. The size was around 1.2-ish gigabytes, so it's going to be around that size of the parameters. You can check online what the different numbers are. I'm going to put a list somewhere on the screen for you guys to see how large certain models are, how much gigabytes they actually need of normal storage. But once it's a success, it says it has the three arrows and it says to send a message. We are already in the model at this time. So if I just type, hello, what model are you? And it will think, because obviously it's the R1 model. I'm not going to go into detail on that. But it says I'm DeepSeek R1, AI assistant, independently developed, etc., etc. We are running this AI on our local system. So any data we give it, let's say we give it our names, it will not send those to any big companies, not to any data centers, not to any larger companies out there, which is the main reason why people prefer using a privately hosted AI. And with this, we can do all sorts of things like you would do with a normal AI. It basically works the exact same. So let's say, for example, because this is a reasoning model, I'm going to be asking it a bit more of a complicated question to see how the thinking exactly works and how long it's going to take on my own system. I'm going to be asking it the question, what is the reason for life? A very deep question. Okay, so this is already a good example of what can actually happen. It has some built-in parameters, and just because you are running it locally does still mean you can't ask certain question, let's say about weapons or stuff like that. It will still block those. But this will bring us on to our next point, is how do you get out of this? So if you type /by, it will kick us out of the model and we are back on our main user command line. Now, if we want to re-enter the model, well, all we have to do is type Ollama run deepseek-r1 and the parameters as well, 1.5 billion. And this will put us straight back into the model because obviously we've installed it before. It is still installed on our computer, so it will still run instantly and we can instantly talk to it again. So we are going to leave it now. And if you want to check what models you have installed on your computer, you type Ollama list. And this will give you a list of all the different models that are installed on your computer. This is a very key point because now we can go back to Ollama, find a different model, like say for example Gemma 3, and we can basically do the exact same thing. So we are going to be going for the 1 billion parameter Gemma 3. We're just going to be copying the command and installing that. It's going to pull the same manifest, install it all the way around. Alrighty, and now that it has been installed, you can see it's a success. We can still type to it, hey, what model are you? It's obviously always a great question to start off with. And it is Gemma 3, as it says, open weights, designed table text, everything. We are going to be exiting this now. So we are back into our command prompt. We can type Ollama list again, Ollama list. And this basically shows that you can have different models installed at the same time and instantly call them from your computer. So now that we have our different models installed, we can actually start to work towards customizing it. This is where it gets a bit more complicated, but I will run you through all the steps so it's very easy. What we are going to be doing is opening Visual Studio Code. Most people would already have this. If you don't have it already, just install it. It works the same as Ollama. It's just a file that you run a setup command and it will run automatically. We have it right here. So what we are going to be doing now is creating a new file within Visual Studio Code. So you're going to go to File and then create a new file. We are going to be putting in Modelfile. Nothing else. It will lead us to our directory where I will put it on my desktop for easy access. You can put it anywhere on your system as long as you can find it again later on. So here we are in our model file. It should have no added text, no .txt, no .html, nothing else behind it. And what we are going to be doing now is going to a separate link, which I will link down below in the description, or it's going to be somewhere in the text. And this is our model file template. So as you guys can see here, there is a bunch of different instructions and descriptions. You can set different parameters to what you want your model to be. For this example, we are just going to be copying this base model file, which has built-in parameters, and we are going to be pasting it in our software. Then obviously we are going to be saving the file, and we're going to make the edits that are necessary. For this one, because we want to run it on DeepSeek R1, we are going to be changing the from to obviously the model that we are using, which is DeepSeek-R1, and don't forget the different parameters as well, 1.5 billion. Okay, I've had to make some slight adjustments. It is just from DeepSeek R1. You don't have to specify which model it is. It sets basically the model that it's going to be using. Then we can change the temperature as well. The temperature is basically how creative the AI can be. We're going to leave that as 1 for now. Then we have a different parameter. We are just going to be removing this as we do not need the parameter of how many response numbers it can give. And then we have our specified prompt. Here you can see system. You are Mario from Super Mario Bros. Acting as an assistant. So what this will do is this will apply this effect to all of the different responses that we are going to be asking it later on. In this, we could build a giant prompt which could make our sales advisor to analyze different sorts of data. It could be our creative designer, it could be our copywriter who writes different text for us. So what we can do from here is obviously have different models be different assistants. We can have DeepSeek be our sales assistants to analyze different sorts of data, or we can have Gemini being our copywriter who writes fitting stories and descriptions to our videos. But now, for this example, we are just going to be sticking with this Super Mario Bros. Acting as an assistant. Don't forget to save it. You can see this dot next to the file name. If this is showing it hasn't been saved, now I'm saving it and it disappears. That is very good to remember. So now that we have our model file set up and on our desktop where we can locate it, on this you will see this next set of instructions. Obviously, we have to save the model file, and then we have to create a different model name. We will return to the command prompt and basically follow that same guide. So we're going to be starting off with Ollama, then go to create, then we can give it our own name. Just for ease, I'm going to be calling it Mario, of course, makes sense. And then we have to find the file location. So first we are going to address -f, which is just stand for file, and then we're going to be locating it. So you have to do a dot and a slash and then the location where it's located. So for me, it is currently on my desktop. If you have it in your documents, you have to type documents. If it's then in another folder, you have to add another slash for the next folder. But for me, it is just going to be called model file. Okay, I've had to make some slight adjustments. It is just from DeepSeek R1. You don't have to specify which model it is. And now it is installing it. So we are basically using that same command line, which is just Ollama create model name and then the file location. And as you can see, it is installing it as we speak. Okay, so now that everything is installed and it is a success, we can actually run this private model. So we are going to be typing Ollama run. And now, because we have renamed it to Mario, we can just type run Mario. It obviously has to take a second. And once this new model has started, we can basically ask it the same questions. And as you can see, while we are waiting here, you can actually see the thinking process. So it actually is thinking about how to approach this problem where he needs to act as Mario from Super Mario Bros. And respond to the user's greetings. The user said, hello, who are you? So first off, it basically is just talking to itself and giving it a reason. Now, normally you could run something like Gemini or something like Llama, which are more text-based models, and obviously they don't have to think those, so they are a lot faster than this model. Obviously I'm using DeepSeek R1. It's a lot stronger, it's a reasoning model, it will talk to itself, so it'll take a lot longer to get a response, but it obviously will mean you get a longer response, or a more accurate response I should say. So now that it is done thinking, it will actually give me the response, and it says it's Super Mario from Mario Bros. This might seem like a simple implication, but you can make this as wild as you possibly can. Like I said earlier, you can make it a copywriter, you can make it any model that you would basically want, and it'll give you the detailed response that you are looking for. This way you can specify every single model to your own tasks and run different models at the same time, have different people running in your same online business on your own device. And all of that for the total price of $0. It doesn't cost anything, you just have to have a device that can run it, and obviously the specifications of your device will determine how fast it is and how accurate it is, but it still works on even a simple laptop like this. So I hope you've learned something. I'll see you guys in the next Creative Lab session, and thank you very much for watching.